of competition type thing, and it was very what do you call it?
I think I remember that. Yeah,
it was very competitive, and I was very happy I got in. And so, as I said, you fake it till you make it. You get to the room and it's like, okay, you have a seat now, and they ask you questions. So they ask me stuff, and as a sharp Igbo girl now, I can speak my way, And then they ask you, they were like, okay, so your business, how much, time for numbers. They asked me one question like this. I was like, yeah.
You wish your accountant was there.
Yeah. And I gave one number. Of course, the guy could read, he could read through me, and he was like, okay, thank you very much. You best believe, of course, I didn't make it to the next level of that competition. But what happened if only, of course, I knew my onions, I sold myself, and I knew the numbers about my business, only God knows the opportunity that competition would have taken the brand, right? So
Absolutely.
It's a hard lesson in, knowledge. What do you think, Eizu?
I mean, coincidentally, there's actually a trend in this laws, because I think knowledge is law number 3 or so. And I'd express this, what you just said. I'll summarize it in the quote by Socrates. Socrates is by far perhaps the greatest philosopher of all time. He mentored the likes of Aristotle, who mentored Plato and Alexander the Great. He says something about knowledge. He says, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or drink not at all. For a little intoxicates, but the deeper you get, the sober you become. Right? A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I think that it's better to be a stark illiterate than for you to be half illiterate. Because a stark illiterate, you don't know, and you don't know. It's good. The worst people are people that don't know and don't know they don't know, right? It's when you don't know. It's better that you don't know that you don't know, because you're going to open up your mouth and just say nonsense, and people who know would actually be quiet. I can't remember who said this. I think it's Solalinsky or so. He says, great people flatter the fool, and the fool flatters himself, right? So the key thing about it is saying, this thing I'm good at, right? How can I consistently gain more knowledge at it? Because the knowledge you had yesterday might not be enough for the knowledge today. And very practically, how this works for business people who are listening right now is the perfect time, or the perfect way to start your 2023 is a retreat, a training, right? A lot of people have done dirty December. A lot of people have to literally refresh and reset whatever they need to do. I think the best way to enter into the court of 2023 is to plan a retreat, plan a strategy session. And I like to ask a lot of SMEs, you have a budget for your rent, you have a budget for your salary, but do you even have a budget for your own training, for knowledge? Because like the goose that lays the golden egg, right? If you have a goose that lays a golden egg, what do? You don't eat the goose. Because if you eat the goose, you can't find any other golden egg. So you have to take care of that goose so you can lay more golden egg. And the way you take care of the goose in business is for you to keep reigniting the intellectual sanctuary that runs your business. So I'll give a good example. You run a restaurant, and you run it for 3 years, and you still haven't taken a course on nutrition, right? Or even hotel management or hospitality. You're not taking care of the brand. The biggest problem most businesses have is that they're not moving with the time. I mean, all around us, we see a lot of problems that come from lack of research and development. Yes. And research and development is knowledge, right? I always crack the joke that a few years ago, how did a small apple knock out a BlackBerry? BlackBerry at some point was controlling over 60% of market share in the world, simply because BlackBerry wasn't moving fast with knowledge, right? Your boat 3 would hang, they'll bring out a boat 4 that was hanging more than your boat, the boat 3, and it's a lot. If you look at the big companies, you'll be shocked at how much budget they have on research and development. Google has more budget for training than Nigeria has for a national budget, right? And you wonder why there's a correlation between that, right? If you look at anything that is world power globally, the trend of world power from the Egyptian era to the Roman to the Greek to Britain to US and even China, what you find out in that trend is that every world power starts off in the fundamental of knowledge. Once the knowledge base of the world moves from a place to another country, right, it also moves power, right? So the easiest way to be powerful is to be knowledgeable. And people don't see that. And I'm not talking about political power. I'm talking about as a business, right? You've got to be able to think that deeply about your business. But if you're listening right now, you want to call in and share what your plans for 2023 is, right? It'd be great. Let's hear. Or you have a challenge in business and you want you want to ask us those questions, and then we can on the spot try to help you with that. Like my central ideology in life, talk about knowledge is none of us is as smart as all of us. None of us is as smart as all of us. So collaborative learning is always key. I believe very soon we'll go on the commercial break as well. But if you have any calls, you want to make a call, you can always call the number on the phone, right? So I think the most important thing to do is you can call on the phone 081-824-26591. I'll say that again. You want to share your business problems or a challenge or a plan for next year, just call us on 081-824-926591.
Okay. I think for me, the next law that we need to be very intentional about for going into 2023 has to be the law of branding. You can't be all things to all men, right?
Yeah.
You need to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And because one of the things that I see is someone starts up something, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone jumps on that bandwagon. And not only do they jump on that bandwagon, they're like, hey, so like now there's this like kaftan that I totally love, and it's almost like it's like my favorite thing at the moment. So this whole lovely kaftan that a lot of people are making, but the truth is there are people who have been able to differentiate themselves from that oversaturated market, and then you see people who are outrightly copying other brands, and it's like, it doesn't take you that much to be creative. You can be creative if you actually quiet yourself. And, like, as you said, research, develop. Don't just, you see someone making pink and you're like, hey, the pink is selling. And all of a sudden you copy. But the truth is, the person who you see making pink or the person who you see using certain color palette didn't just arrive there by copying. They did a lot of research. They found out like, okay, maybe this works better with the material. This works better with the mood. And then you just saw something and you're like, okay, you're going to copy. And so you find out that a lot of people are the same. So there is no differentiation. There is no one that knows A from B. It's like, oh, okay. Do you get? It's like there is nothing exciting about your brand. There's nothing like there's nothing you're offering that no one has not seen before. And I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I remember when I was running my footwear business, Healy Footwear, shameless plug, by the way. So one of the things a lot of friends of mine or even people that I don't know will tell me is like when they go into, if they go into like, let's say a restaurant or they see they can sight Yeely from afar. And that was because we're very intentional about every single thing we're
very
doing.
Colorful as well. It was very stylish.
Yes, there was a reason behind that. So we didn't just wake up in the morning and we're like, hey, pink, okay, we're going to do pink. No, there was a reason. There was actually a story behind everything we were doing. So as we're getting into 2023, you need to differentiate yourself from the pack. You don't want to do what Jack, James, and Ada are doing. It's like, what makes you different? So it can be like your color palette. It can be like your design. It's like, and it mustn't even be extraordinary. It can just be something that differentiates you, that you know that when people see this, they already know that, this is the brand. So when you see, for example, when you see Apple products, it's Apple products. You don't need to crack your head, is a product. And also, even if you like some like certain political figures, once you see them, you already know that, okay, like this is their color code. They wear a certain thing because it differentiates them. But you can't just be like, my mentor is wearing pink, meanwhile I'm going to sack. You need to purposefully and mindfully create your brand, curate the kind of brand that you want. Make sure that your brand lies, it aligns with your purpose, your vision. It's not just copy and paste. Eizu, what about you? What do you think?
Absolutely. The brand next year, as the market gets more saturated, differentiation becomes so key. One of the most fundamental things people need to do next year is to be intentional about their brand. And what's all this thing called branding? Branding is just a unique way of representing what you do that it makes it so easy to identify. And for you to do that, you've got to have three variables. For anything to be a brand, it has to be unique, it has to be easy to identify, and then it must be consistent. Yeah. If you think of any brand, and when I like to say, name the most popular brands in the world, I think my top three most popular brands in the world, if you ask me, would be Apple, Coca-Cola, and Jesus. Those are three things that everyone can recognize, right? It would be strange if you say you've never heard of the word Jesus, or you never heard of the word iPhone or Apple, or you never heard of the word Coca-Cola, right? And if you look at those three brands, right? And of course, there are like thousands and millions of other brands that are also very, very in that alignment of unique, easy to identify, and consistent. But what you find out in those three things is Are they easy to identify? Their logos, matter of fact, these three brands I mentioned, if you just looking at their logo, you know their brands, right? So ask yourself, what is that thing I'm doing currently in 2022 that is so good that I can convert into a brand? That means, how can I make that thing I'm doing so easy to identify, right? Today I felt really strange just coming and wearing hoodies, because I really like to wear my sleeves, but I always fold my sleeves. That's been my identity ever since I figured out that. And I was just reading something about minimalism and how the greatest leaders are now moving towards an orientation called minimalism. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg wears only a grey t-shirt. Steve Jobs before wore only black, right? I know a Nigerian, not a politician, I know a Nigerian entrepreneur, Otadala, who wears only white, right? And that's easy to identify. And you've got to ask yourself, what is that thing about me that's easy to identify? Sometimes that's as dramatic as your appearance. Some other time, it's not your appearance. It could be your service. What is that easy to identify about your service, right? I know airlines that people say, oh, I fly because I like the food or I like how they look. I mean, if you fly, if you're in the Emirates and you fly Emirates, you already know how they look, right? So easy to identify is key. Then you've got to be consistent. I feel like too many people are consistently inconsistent with where they consistently want to be. I'll say that again. Too many people are consistently inconsistent with where they consistently want to be. So next year, please try to find something about your brand that's going to be easy to identify. It could be your slogan. It could be the way your office looks, especially for people that run retail. New year is a new time to rebrand, right? Don't do the same thing you done yesterday and expect a different result today, right? So I think that's key in itself.
Yes. So for me, another one that I think stands out is the law of character. So basically, you don't overvalue yourself or undervalue yourself.
Yeah.
And as I said, it still goes back to a couple of our points, previous points. And what is, let's start with the overvaluing yourself. I see a lot of that like in the art world, right? So you start making art and all of a sudden you're charging something very ridiculous. And when someone, and I see a lot of that here back in Nigeria, and you're asking someone, okay, so why are you charging? Because the truth is, when you meet people like, so for like the luxury brands, a lot of times that people look up to, or even just general brands, there's pricing strategy. There's a reason why they're charging what they're charging, right?
Yeah.
And I see someone who maybe just started up, you're not really doing anything extraordinary or spectacular, but just because of you're hearing that people are into arts now, you too, you want to do your own, you want to, and it's almost like when you have a conversation with them, why are you charging what you're charging? Why should I buy your art? What's the value? They don't know. Because the truth is, a lot of people overvalue themselves. So you overvalue yourself to a point where you value yourself out of the market, and you're not you're not competitive.
Yeah.
And people will not be able to afford you, because the truth is, they don't know why they are buying you. So when you see like a lot of established artists now, I'm using art as an example. This of course cuts across different segments. The reason why they charge what they charge is there's a year of experience. When you speak to them, you know why they are charging. But when they started, they didn't start off by charging that, you know. And also, a flip side of this is also undervaluing yourself. And I know that we also, so this is almost like a two double sided coin, right? We know that we live in a country where you know your stuff, you've worked hard, and maybe people don't see value in your stuff. And the truth is, as I said, you can't be all things to all men. So you know the reason why you're putting this, because maybe the art behind it, the history, a lot of things that go behind why you're charging. So you see that, like, let's say in the clothing, or like, things that product related or market, and you hear people say, it's so expensive, why are you charging this, and then just because you want people to buy, you're like, okay, fine, I'll reduce my price. The truth is, you're really shortchanging yourself. If you believe and you know why you're charging what you're charging, and you know your stuff, you know the reason, there is a structure, there's a lot of things behind why you're charging your price, then fine, only with your chest. And even when people try to bully you into trying to reduce the price, you stick, you stand firm. Because the funny thing is, most people that try to undervalue people, they will go to somewhere else, and then they will still pay premium for what they are trying to charge someone else here. And I saw a lot of that when I was running my own business. People will come to me like, okay, why are you charging 15,000 or 20,000? for a handmade product, you already even answered the question, is handmade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
effort, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of
work that goes
it's bespoke,
into,
literally.
Yes. And then you see people literally trying to intimidate me, like, why are you charging that this? And then you see them wearing like a named brand, and then you're just looking at them.
Red bottoms,
like,
yeah.
First of all, I'm not even trying to throw shade, but I know the quality of my products. I know that we make our footwear for the African market, knowing that it can withstand rain. Whatever you throw at it, it can withstand. Your expensive sandals won't be able to withstand that, And it got to a point where, like, when I first started, I had to learn this the hard way. I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll reduce my price. But at a point, I'm like, okay, fine. It's either you buy or not.
I wish that particular conversation was had, right, maybe around when you were going through that challenge, because you see, this concept of pricing is deep, right? From an accounting perspective, like 3 types of pricing. There's cost plus pricing, there's value-based pricing, and there's cost reimbursable pricing. Now, for a lot of businesses, right, when you say you're charging below, especially above industry standard, right, that's premium, right? So what you use to compensate for that is a competition advantage. Is either there's a deeper story behind it, right? So you've got to, it's a story that you tell that makes it gives it value, right? I'll give a good example. There's a particular painting called Basquiat, Jean Michel. Right, Jean Michel paintings are really expensive. Right? It's a black painter. I think he died years ago from drugs overdose. But I know Rick Ross has one, Beyonce has one, Jay-Z has one. But the story behind Jean Michel is, first of all, he's one of the greatest black artists of all time, painters of all time. And then he didn't live long enough to have so many arts. And scarcity creates value, right? So there's a story behind it, right? It's a story that gives it the depth that you need, right? But most of the time when you don't have the story, another thing that can give you compensation is triggers. So trigger would be, who are the people using the brand? Sometimes, let me give you an example. If I'm selling this pen, right, for, let me say, 1,000 naira, right? And all of a sudden, right, Jay-Z comes to buy this pen, right? And another time, Burna Boy buys this pen. It stops being 1K. Because now there's a story, there's a story, and there's now a trigger. Because brand drop off from brands, right? And it's just a practical example. I mean, I was reading, I saw something of recent. It was a writer for one of Nigerian artists, and how much he's charging per show is Burna Boy. I'm like, whoa. But like you clearly said, Burna Boy can charge that for the years of experience, for the trigger of the Grammy Awards. You see, Burna's trigger for charging that much is about the only Nigerian Grammy Award winner, direct Grammy. I'm not talking about people that collaborated, right? So I think that's also key. There was a particular year that Jay-Z and Kanye, this was pre, on a lighter note, this was pre Kim K Kanye, right? Kanye before Kim K. That was Kanye in his prime. They charged $6 million to perform at a child's birthday party. $6 million. But come on, that's Dubai. Right, that's Sheikh Maktoum. Sheikh Maktoum is the owner of Manchester City, right? And you can see the story behind that, right? So brand drop off from brands. For anybody who has something you think is worth the value, you have an obligation to show us the story on why we should pay you that amount of money, right? But sometimes you've got to match value with character. And thank God you talk about the law of character, because whenever you charge a lot, or whenever you go into business, understand that no matter everything you have, you've got to back it up with character. Character literally means being true. Are you true? So, for example, if you're doing a sandal and say, this sandal can withstand African weather, it has to be true, right? I always crack the joke that if you want to sell me a bulletproof car, and you sell me a bulletproof car, the only way I'm going to buy a bulletproof car for me is if you're going to get into the car, close the doors, and I'm going to bring an AK-47, I'm going to shoot through the car. That's the only way I can guarantee there's an AK-47. Any other thing is trial and error, because I don't want to be in the middle of Oshodi and then I find out whether that happens, right? So I think it's about promise. Business is actually about promise. Everything in business is profit. I mean, the concept of money is promise. That's why money is called IOU, right? There's nothing called money. Money is, here's this paper, right? What money really is here's this paper, is worth 1,000. I promise you 1,000 if I give you this money. It's promise. So we've got to have the type of brands where you can promise people, be true to your promise, true to your word, true to your commitment. And I think that's really key in itself.
Okay, so we're running out of time. So we want to quickly run through some of our other laws I think that are very important for 2023. And another one that I think is very important is the law of value and results. So basically, like how a lot of people always, I'm so busy meeting. No, meeting this. there are things that emails can solve. There are things, just a quick phone calls. You have to value your time. Time is a resource that we can't get back.
Yeah.
Any other thing you may be able to get, you can pay money to, but you can pay money to get more time. So we need to be very intentional with our time. So what are you using your time for? Can you re-strategize? So like, instead of spending 10 hours in a meeting, is this something that like 1 hour, 30 minutes can do? Is it something an email can do?
Yeah.
Anything to work efficiently as opposed to working hard. Of course, there are times to work hard and there's time to work smart, but we need to know that value really equals to results, and that's why a lot of people have problem, have problem with Lagos, because there's a lot of time that goes when you're stuck in traffic, right? Yeah. And that, think about like when you're not doing things you should be doing and you're wasting your time, you're literally in traffic. This is figuratively, and it's taking your time, you're burning time, and you don't have that time. We don't know how long we're here for, so how can you maximize your time? I think it's something that we should think deeply about, and it's something that should be priority in 2023.
Absolutely.
So what do you think?
I'd sum up that in 2 words. Don't sweat, not 2 words, in a keyword, outsourcing, right? Mm-hmm. Outsourcing. Anything that is not worth your time, outsource. Some of us are penny wise, pounds foolish. For example, you run a business that you make, say, I don't know, let me convert whatever you make. Say you make $1 million in a month. Convert that to an hour. Right? How much is that in an hour if you convert number of hours in a month? And then you might be shocked that you're making maybe, let me just give an example, you're making like 10K in an hour. Why are you not spending 3 hours in Lagos traffic? Right? If you pay a driver 80K for a month, it's more efficient. So you can use that time to do other things. So my theory on this thing is outsource the things that are not worth your time, right? Including sometimes events. So sometimes people chat me up, oh yeah, I'm having a wedding, and if you're really important to me, shout out to Gunnar, right? If you're not, I'm going to put something in an envelope and I'm going to say, oh, thank you very much. I'm sorry, thank you for the invite. I'm sorry I can't make it, but I understand, especially if I feel that even you that you're inviting me, I'm also, because sometimes you're inviting everybody else, right? So sometimes also saying, look, do you have to attend to every O1 bed that they invite you to? Because that might not be the best use of your time, right? I see people do this all the time, actually, like middle class people who, what they do on Saturdays is wash clothes, right? You Saturdays for laundry, no problem. But how about if you could use that Saturday for something more strategic and make more money for you or touch more lives? So I think don't sweat the petty things and then pet the sweaty things. Don't sweat the petty things and now pet the sweaty things. So if you're listening right now, I think next year you have to look at your life in this year and say, what I think that I spend the most money on, right? That wasn't worth my time, and take them out. Sometimes it's not even time, it's people. What people I spent so much time on and didn't add tangible value to me, didn't make me get better. Matter of fact, they even made me get worse, right? Maybe wrong associations or whatever it is. It's extremely important. For a lot of businesses, you need to reevaluate what you really do as a business. Sometimes we think we're in a particular business, we're not in that business. I mean, someone was telling me something about, I think it was McDonald's, and somebody asked, the owner of McDonald's asked one of the staff, what do you think we sell here? And the guy said, well, we sell burger, we sell chicken. He said, what do you think we sell here? He said, we sell burger, we sell chicken, we sell ice cream. So what do you think we sell? He said, we sell burger, we sell ice cream, we sell milkshake. He says, are you sure that's what we sell here? The guy said, yes. He said, no, that's not what we sell here. He said, what do we sell here? He said, we sell consistency. Right? We don't sell any of these things. We just happen to sell these things by the side, but what we're selling is consistency. So sometimes you are doing a business that what you need to really do in that business is to look at the keywords of what you sell and then outsource the other ones, right? So I give a practical example of this, right? A lot of people are in a business that they don't really even have to do, right? And this is what's creating the marketplace business, right? The guys, I don't know which car company, for example, has made more money this year in selling cars than Auto Checkers, right? There's a company called Auto Check, and they don't own any of those cars, right? So that's a automobile company that's saying, look, we sell cars, but we're not going to sell cars. So they outsource the selling of cars, and then they concentrate on what they really do, which is a platform, a digital platform. So people have to think that creatively in whenever they sell things, right? What do I sell? And then outsource everything that doesn't look like what I sell. So you can concentrate on what you really sell. It could be customer service that you're really selling and be good at that. I think that's really key in itself.
Yeah. So for me, the next law that I think is also important is the law of sacrifice. And I know that sacrifice is a word that not a lot of people love to hear or even like, right? Because it just seems like you're denying yourself something. You know? But so what I do is I rephrase it in my mind as the law of priority. So it's almost like, what is more important now that you can do that would help you like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So if you don't like the word sacrifice, you can look at it as prioritizing something over something, right? So it's like knowing how, now it's easy, maybe you sleep, like get enough sleep and everything, but it's almost like you can add a bit of workout in between just to make sure that you're basically building a consistent and a lifestyle that would help you down the line. So you're building your muscle, you're building like a healthy habit. So, or even in business, in every different aspect of your life, it's like, what can you give priority to now, at the expense of something else that you will thank yourself later for? And I think in 2023 is the time to do that. As I said, we're not guaranteed time here. We don't know how long, no one knows how long they have here. So what we have to do is like, we have to wake up every day as a fresh day, and it's like, okay, what can I do for the future that I want? So does that be like better relationship? Does that mean like better eating lifestyle, or even prayer lifestyle, your business? What can you do? Can you prioritize over like your comfort? Because a lot of times some of the things that keep us where we are is that comfort. You're in your comfort and I can't really be asked, but the truth is no one has really achieved a lot just being in their comfort zone. So we need to think strategically for 2023. And
absolutely. You call it prioritization, I call it weighing the scale.
Okay.
Right, so weighing the scale is at any given point you have so many things you want, but one of the things I've learned to do is if I want something, I'm going to weigh it next to what I want most. So what I want versus what I want most, right? So for example, someone says, oh, let me give a practical example. You want to spend time with family, and then somebody, a client says, oh, let's just hang out. So I'm going to put hang out next to family, and I'm going to weigh the scale, right? And I'm going to say what I want versus what I want most, right? If you can always ask yourself, this thing I want versus what I want most, right? So you're probably reading for an exam, and then you want to probably just watch a football match, right? What do I want? I want to watch a football match. What do I want most? I want to pass. So do you want to watch a football match, or do you want to pass your exams, if that's really the case? So it's really prioritization, and next year should be that year where you can do that more strategically, right? And I think people need to learn to normalize sacrifice. When you think of it as a sacrifice, it's hard to make, right? If you think about it, it's normal, right? It's a way of life, right? And it's just one of those things that people need to do. And one of the things I've learned to do these days is to think of giving, right? As I always tell people, maybe you do something for someone says thank you. In my mind, I'm like, if all these guys knows that giving is the most selfish thing to actually do, because I'm being blessed more. And when I say blessed, I'm not talking about materialism. I'm thinking that I'm a product of being in places where I know I didn't work hard enough for those things. So I assume that maybe my parents or my great grandparents have done something good. But I don't know why people keep thinking that what you sow is what you reap, meant where you sow is where you reap. I don't know why people think it's not. It's just, so when you do good, right, don't assume that you're doing it to get back, right, from the same person. Because when you think, okay, I gave you something and I expect to give me back, it now become like a transaction. It now become like a gamble, right? And it also helps you sort of become more heartbroken because the person might never give you back, right? So I think that's key in itself. So shout out to everyone who's listened, right? By the way, on the 14th of January, talk about preparing for next year. We'll be having a strategy session at Eko Hotel, right? If you're interested to join, you could just follow us on Instagram, Hexavia. Hexavia is spelled as Hexavia, right? And Ginika, I can't thank you enough, right? I know you have a busy schedule. You're out of town tomorrow. Thank you for coming and sharing. And you did so brilliantly well. Like, I would assume a broadcaster by training. So thank you